Hello and welcome. I have a question for you. Do you ever feel disappointed, dismayed, and disillusioned because your daily life experience is incongruent with what you know is possible? If you've seen and tasted more, and now living with less is eating at you and zapping your vitality, then you're in the right place. Today on Awaken and Ascend, Daniel Aaron joins me from Maui, Hawaii. He is one who helps spiritual people who are craving more impact, income, financial abundance, meaning, or vibrancy, raise their frequency and daily activities to truly live as spiritual warriors so they can finally get the physical, earthly lives to match up to their values, vision, and potential to create vibrant, thriving lives. He has seen clients who have experienced awakenings, truth, and light, and want so much to share, teach, and contribute their insights. Yet they feel inadequate, suffer from imposter syndrome, and end up stuffing down their dreams and dharma. They so want and deserve to be having a greater impact in the world around them rather than consistently struggling. He says no matter what they try, it will never all come together until they become who they know and want themselves to be. They need to passionately act on their vision, including employing purposeful and powerful practices to guarantee its realization and the radical success. Dreaming their vision is insufficient, says Daniel, yet aligned activity ensures the results that they're after, and this is what we're going to be getting into today. Hi, I'm Jennifer Regular, the Soul Illuminator at Lighting the Path, and also host of this show. So let's now welcome my guest, Daniel Aaron, founder of the Art of Vibrant Living, and also the author of The Art of Spiritual Leadership, and is what he's actually here to talk about with us today. Welcome, Daniel. It is so wonderful to have you here.
Thank you, Jennifer. That was so kind of you to share all that, and I'm just excited to be here with you and your audience. And what an honor! Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm wanting this to be able to gather people from all around the globe, Daniel, to be able to support this uplifting of humanity, to be able to support the awakening and the ascension, to accelerate our life path. Like you say, we don't need to be always struggling. We can lead vibrant, thriving lives. And there's some powerful practices that can get us there, some tools and tips I know from all your life experiences, from what you've seen in your clients, is entirely possible. So I am so excited for this conversation. And I wanted to ask you, you talk about the art of vibrant living and also the art of spiritual leadership, but just talking about that vibrancy for a moment while we're talking about these vibrant, thriving lives, what does it really mean to know and experience vibrancy? How can we get to that kind of frequency or vibration?
Well, yeah, great. It's a wonderful question. And the first thing I would say is it depends on everybody. Each person's definition of vibrancy, just like their definition of success or happiness, it's different for everybody. What I would say is common, though, and what is the birthright for all of us is that we are filled with energy, that we're excited, that we're optimistic, that we're hopeful, that we're passionate, that we've got the juice and the vitality to, to thrive in life rather than what is sadly common, which is just getting by.
Yeah.
So, to me, that's the bar, the mark, the standard that I don't want to use the word we should be going for, but we can be going for, we can be attaining, we can be living with. And how is a great, wonderful question. And I suppose the first response to that is going back to what I just said, which is know that that's where we're going and that's what our standard is. And what will get me there, what will get you there, what will get Mary and Joseph and John and Jimmy there, it's all going to be a little bit different. For me, in what I practice and what I teach, though, there are four core elements, what I call the Fantastic Four. And they involve starting from simplest, most obvious to a little bit more subtle. One is physical movement, right? Just at the very least, a little bit of challenging our body every day, getting it in motion. And For me personally, I've been into yoga for 30 years. I love yoga and that kind of practice. Though there's all kinds of ways, even if it's just walking, bouncing, rebounding, so many great ways to move. Um, Second one, and this one for some people is maybe a little more optional. I call it writing for vibrancy. You could call it journaling or stream of consciousness. And the way we work with it is there are some specific questions and protocols that really make it a powerful, uplifting process, and one which is introspective, one which helps us develop more self-mastery, self-understanding. And then the last two I really put together into what I call the CDIP. And the CDIP stands for Creative Dynamic Inward Process, right? Some people would call that quantum meditation. And certainly from the outside, it would look like nothing. It would look like meditation. And the reason I don't use the word meditation is because it evokes something different for so many different people. It's been used so many times. You say meditation, immediately people picture different things.
True.
And oftentimes what they picture is trying to stop the mind, or having, lighting a candle and some incense and having a little snoozy time with an eye pillow. And that's all wonderful. I like candles. I like incense. What I mean, though, is something that's much more dynamic, that's active, that involves challenge. Actually, it's not an easy thing. It is a doable thing. Everybody can do it. So when I say creative dynamic, that's on the inside, right? Inward process. So yeah, we close our eyes and we disengage from the outer world and all its stimuli, go inside, and then we get to work, right? We get to work, meaning we affect our brain waves. We change our brain waves. We get ourselves from the beta active thinking, fight or flight, survival energy, which is so common and, part of the human animal system, of which we all have some. And we go from that into a more chilled out alpha brainwave state, right? That gets into our parasympathetic nervous system, that brings us into a self-induced trance. And once we're in that self-induced trance, then we have the opportunity to program ourselves. Most of us are already programmed by society and marketers and advertising, or our past, or our traumas, or our parents, or our schools.
It's a lot.
So, say again.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah. Nobody gets here as a blank slate. So to create a vibrant, thriving, amazing life, well, it takes some intention. It takes some effort.
Some deliberate and inspired action. And I love the use of the word creativity, and really identifying ourselves as a creator, as a creatrix, that we can create our reality. And all these tips that you just now offered, like the experience of vibrancy and what that would look like, and how we can feel into that, and the fantastic four that can really support us in becoming who we came here to be and doing what we came here to do. And I like the idea too of really stepping up our passion, like our deeper sense of passion. When I look at that word, you actually break it up, and it's pass I on. And that I is our soul's expression of what we're here to pass on in this lifetime. So all this work that we're doing for ourselves to align with our body, mind, and create this dynamic motion, because to live dynamic and vibrant life, we get to pass that on, and that affects the whole vibration and vibrancy of the planet. So that when people talk about raising the vibration of the planet, this is the sort of thing that we're talking about. We have this individual and collective mission. And then you talk about the art of vibrant living and the art of spiritual leadership. It is an art, and it's part of that creative process that we're here producing our own reality, really. Right. And so I'm interested to hear more about this art of spiritual leadership, because if we're stepping in and working that fantastic four, and we're stepping into our vibrancy, then we also have an opportunity to step up as a leader, as a role model. So what is the art of spiritual leadership? How is that different from the way others might think of like a government leader or world leader, for example?
Yeah, cool. Okay, so what we're referring to here is this book that was published last year, The Art of Spiritual Leadership, and the subtitle is important because it's 40 laws to transform your life and the world, and it points to one of the keys that you already started us with here, which is that when we transform, it has an impact, right?
Mm.
And 20
Hmm.
years ago, that was like frou-frou kind of talk. But we know that now. The butterfly effect, everybody's aware of that. It's all consciousness. And so if I change my vibration, if you change your vibration, that is affecting the whole.
Mm.
And so there's different levels of leadership. First and foremost, we're all leading ourselves or doing it effectively or ineffectively, right? So if I can lead myself and go from my unresourceful thoughts or beliefs to struggle to worry and get myself into a more positive state, well, that's already some leadership, right?
Yes.
And if I can do that with other people around me, maybe it's in my family, my community, right? Then that's another level of leadership. Maybe I have an organization or maybe a government position, or who knows. It can go as far as we want. I think the key difference in spiritual leadership compared to, what do we call it, conventional leadership, or what we usually think of as leadership, like you mentioned,
Hmm.
a governmental leader. Well, a governmental leader could be a spiritual leader. I mean, look at Nelson Mandela,
Mm.
right? He was elected president of South Africa right after apartheid ended, and he was one of the most brilliant spiritual leaders we've ever had.
True.
Um, the key distinction, I would say, is that a spiritual leader is led by and fed by spirit, their connection to the divine, the values and visions that connect to whatever we call it, God, the universe, nature, those values that are in support of life and human potential. Um,
Hmm.
and that can look like a lot of different things. Yeah.
What is your vision? What do you see it looking like? Especially when you wrote the book, what was it that you were hoping to show and help people to understand?
Well, okay, we'll get a little radical with that. One
All
of the
right,
things,
let's.
and maybe a spoiler alert, but it's not a great drama. This one, well, actually, it's the greatest drama. But
Hmm.
there's a piece of writing advice that's common. Anton Chekhov said, speaking to writers, if there is a rifle on the wall in the first act of your play, it must be fired by the last act of your play. In other words, what he's talking about on a writing level is every detail matters. The
Hmm.
way I kind of take that and incorporate it in this book, and what my vision is, well, just because humans have apparently always had conflict, war, um, torn each other apart, had a very primitive way of being on the planet, settled things with might and fists. And now look at us, though. We've evolved so much technologically. Well, we're not like throwing rocks at each other anymore. We could end the life on Earth in a moment. We have that capability now. However, we haven't really evolved that much in certain other ways, right? Because even as we are conversing right now, there are parts of the planet where people are killing each other,
Hmm.
right? That's how they are settling a disagreement. And so what my vision is that, and this is why I say it's radical, because a lot of people are like, come on, that's never going to happen, that we can actually live in peace in the world,
Yes.
right? And I don't mean just like, okay, now this country is not going to a war against this country, that too, of course, but also that, hey, if you and I get upset with each other about something, which is sometimes happens in life, right? We have misunderstandings and miscommunications and the illusion of separateness.
Hmm.
If that happens, that we can say, well, hold on, let's figure out how to move beyond this. Let's see that harmony is our natural state, love is our natural state, and if that's compromised, if we lose that for a little while, well, let's find a way to get that back. as soon as possible.
Yes, yes, yes. To really work into something. Like you say, peace isn't just like an absence of war. It's actually something that exists and can be experienced in its own right. To be peace, and to be happy. Just tuning back into our natural state and getting to that rhythm. It's what we do to co-create harmony within ourselves, within our body and mind, with spirit. I love that you spoke about, spirit leading. That's one of my mottos, is free your spirit to direct the life that you're meant to live. And
Mhm.
leaders lead, and spirit can be the leader. Spirit can lead us and inspire us and move us in the direction of our path. And we can go down the path of anger and separation, hostility, or we can choose a different way. Like you
Yeah,
say, we're becoming more conscious now. We're much more aware of the different choices we have. We don't need to be limited by our conditions and our beliefs and how other authorities may be leading us. We can start to move into the art of spiritual leadership. So, what else do you have to say about that? How can we bring that even deeper? How can we really get into the spiritual leadership?
well, I put it in these three frameworks, or these three camps, right? One is that we all need to learn the fundamental laws of life and spirit, and the distinctions that, if we don't understand, lead us to suffering. If we do understand, lead us to thriving. Right?
Mm,
There are certain laws, just like in the physical world, there's the law of gravity. Right? There are laws, learnings, distinctions, principles that we need to learn. We also need practices, what you shared earlier, potent practices, things, or positive rituals, we could call them, right? Things that we do on a regular basis that uplift our life,
mm,
right? And then the third camp is, we need awareness, right? We need to realize when we've slipped back into old patterns, right? When the voices of our past, or old traumas or pains, or whatever it is, has come in and hijacked the system and is leading us someplace we don't want to go. And we could say, well, the words we use in our communities, we say vibe up, like catch it. Okay, whoa, whoa, whoa. I was just being afraid. I was in lack. I was,
mm.
I was in anger. I was in reaction. Catch it, vibe up. Okay. Now that I see it, I'm not that pattern anymore. Now I have choice. I have freedom. I can say, okay,
Yes.
who do I want to be? What's my future self calling for? What would love do? How do I want to shift this up? These are just some of the questions that we might ask when we make that shift on the fly throughout the day.
Absolutely. I love those check-ins to know what we're feeling, how we're moving through that, and what we choose going forward, because every moment is an entry point into the future, and it's so fleeting. It's so fleeting. So the more that we can be aware of it and be in a peaceful state where we actually notice it, those subtle energies, those subtle messages that come, then it's almost becomes effortless. And it doesn't mean that we don't have any effort, but we have less effort than trying to sort it all out and trying to push and get things done and, you know, pushing forward instead of just gently moving forward, you know?
Yeah.
And so I really like that. I appreciate that. Thank you. And you're right about the laws too, because um, one thing that people kind of get discouraged by is that they may be doing all the things, doing all the right things, have these powerful practices. They're going to their places of refuge or sanctuary to support that high vibe and vibe up. And yet things keep happening, that gets in the way. And then they get frustrated and give up, or imposter syndrome, like you mentioned, that you notice in a lot of your clients too pop up. And to notice when that's happening, there's that law of physics, right? What momentum causes resistance. So if you're having that resistance, then you actually know that you're on the right track. You are creating momentum. You are moving forward. and not to react to setbacks or limitations or restrictions. Because quite often, too, that redirection, well, that rejection could be redirection,
Hmm.
right? Rejection can be redirection or protection, right? Things may not be appear as we think they are, right? And that we're being moved gently, nudged forward because Spirit's always guiding us. It might just be nudging us a little bit, a little bit more left or a little bit more to the right, and to trust that process too, and not get worried or hung up when things don't seem to be working, even if you're trying everything, like we talked about in your introduction too, about um, when it all comes together to become who we came here to be and do what we came here to do. Like, no matter all the things that we're trying, it's that alignment too that needs to take place, right? With our dharma and with our true path of service.
Yeah, nicely said.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, are there any other words of wisdom that you can share with us, Daniel, that can help support us on the path and to really set our course and change the trajectory of our lives if it's not going in the way that we had dreamed or imagined or wanted them to? How can people start to get back on track or to start or forge a new path?
Yeah, well, I think the first most important thing is to really remember and get for all of us that anything is possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
That whatever imaginations we've had, dreams we've had, that even if they, other people said, no, that's too much to ask for, or be more realistic, or even if we've said, I tried that thing, but it didn't work. Um, we got to come back to, first of all, remembering that anything is possible and that we are, as you said, creators, right?
Mm.
We are all creators and we're doing it all the time. So, there's that great story about 6 feet from gold, that talks about the gold miner who put everything into this business, went out to California. This 150, 170 years ago, and and got the equipment and dug and dug and dug and dug, and years went by and ended up like going broke, and finally sold all his equipment for just a fraction of what they cost, and left and went back east. And the person he sold it to found out that, well, actually he'd stopped just 6 feet from where the gold was,
Ah,
right?
so close.
And
Yeah.
they got all the rituals, and that's the thing for us. It's so easy to be seduced by the illusion of the physical world, to believe what our senses tell us.
Mm.
And so to keep remembering that everything we see, everything that our senses tell us, well, that all started with thought, with
Mm.
imagination first, right? So we need to keep remembering and charging up and putting energy into our imagination, into what we want, into the possibilities.
Yes, don't quit 5 minutes before the magic happens. Exactly.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yes, absolutely. And really that's self-sabotage, right? Because then the self being the ego self, the lower self, is like, this isn't going to happen. This is impossible. And I'm not good enough, or I'm stupid, or, I'm spending all this time and money and nothing's happening. But to just trust, like if you know, and you were drawn and driven from the beginning to keep remembering that, to keep that spirit alive, that that there's something there,
Yeah.
then you just keep going for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. I know there's so much more that you offer and that and then can share. So, how can people connect with you, Daniel? What's the best way?
Well, very easy is my website, just danielaron.com, and that's AARON, or AARON, danielaron.com. I'm also on a lot of the social platforms. I put out a lot of content for people there and tell stories. And for people, as part of your audience, I'm happy to offer a complimentary guide to vibrant living, if that's okay. Would that be all right?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Very generous offer and something that can definitely support the audience to awaken and ascend. And yes, thank you.
Well, yeah, and for me, this is going on 30 years now where I've been obsessed with personal and spiritual development. So what this is my top 10 tips for vibrant thriving. And um, I'll be honest with you, some of them you will look at and you'll go like, well, yeah, of course, duh. And same for me, though I invite you to go deeper, because the question that I ask myself all the time is, how can I apply that more in my life? In what ways am I not living that fully? How can I take it deeper? So I
Mm.
put all this into a very condensed little guide that shares what those tips are, and then I give some little video tutorials for how to deepen them in one's life. And you can
Oh,
get to that just
fantastic.
by going to my website, danielaaron.com/tips, TIPS.
Easy. Thank you so much. I'm definitely going to have the link for that in the show notes as well for everybody to just click into, grab that guide, go deeper, give yourself a chance some time, spend some time with yourself. Yes, and get into that because it's all there. 10 tips. I mean, we could do that. It's almost like the
Yeah.
10 Commandments, only Daniel Aaron's version. Thank you. It's been such a delight having you here, Daniel. And I wonder if there's any other final words of wisdom that you have to share before we leave today.
Well, the last thing that comes to me just came in is going back to what you asked a moment ago, what to do. High priority for all of us is make sure that we invest some time in ourselves, in our own vibration every day. It's
Mm,
so easy to be reactive to the world, to our past. And if we really prioritize ourselves, put the oxygen mask on ourselves first, it might seem selfish and go against some of the programs that we have. And yet, in whatever way you do it, and if it's only 3 minutes that you can figure out how to do right now, do it. Put that time, and that will grow because you're valuing yourself, you're valuing your potential. And the universe notices. They're saying, hey, that one's tuning in, they're hungry for more, they want more. And that
hmm.
will snowball into more and more positivity.
I love that. Embody life, not just react to it. And it's really embodied leadership because you're embodying yourself, like who you are, and really inhabiting yourself in this life that we've been given here on earth and how we can move into that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great to get to connect with you, and wonderful to be here. So thank you again.
Absolutely. And I also want to thank each and every one of you that have been listening and watching here on Awaken and Ascend. We love you and we'd love for you to like us, give us a thumbs up so we can reach more people and share these messages. And we'll see you again next week. Bye for now.